Most powerful countries in the world according to the economic influence that they have. We've created a rating and we have ranked the countries according to that. Number 20, we have Spain with the GDP of 1.4 trillion US dollars, and the rating for economic influence is 67.2. Number 19, we have the Netherlands with the GDP of 1.02 trillion dollars, whereas the economic influence rating is 67.9. Number 18, we have got Sweden with the GDP of 627 billion US dollars, and the economic influence rating for Sweden is 68.2. Number 17, we have Italy with the GDP of 2.1 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating for Italy is 69.1. Number 16, we've got India with the GDP of 3.9 trillion US dollars, and the economic influence rating of India in the over the world is 69.6. Number 15, we've got Qatar with the GDP of 180 billion US dollars, and the economic influence rating for Qatar is 70.5. Number 14, we have got Singapore with the GDP of 397 billion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating for Singapore is 71.2. Number 13, we have got Australia with a GDP of 1.54 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating for Australia is 72.2. Number 12, we have got Switzerland with a GDP of 813 billion US dollars, whereas the economic ranking for Sweden is 72.9. Number 11, we have got South Korea with a GDP of 1.8 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating for South Korea is 73.9. Number 10, we have got Canada with a GDP of 1.99 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating for Canada is 74.3. Number 9, we've got France with a GDP of 2.94 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic rating for France is 74.9. Number 8, we've got Saudi Arabia with a GDP of 834 billion US dollars, whereas the economic rating for Saudi Arabia is 75.1. Number 7, we have got UAE with a GDP of 359 billion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating of the world being 75.7. Number 6, we have got Russia with a GDP of 1.78 trillion US dollars with the economic rating of 81.6. Number 5, we've got Japan with a GDP of 4.94 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating being 84.9. Number 4, we've got Germany with a GDP of 4.22 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic rating for them is 87.6. Number 3rd, it's the United Kingdom with a GDP of 3.19 trillion US dollars and the economic rating being 89.2. Number 2, we have got the United States of America with a GDP of 25.46 trillion US dollars and the economic rating of 97.2. Number 1, it's China with a GDP of 18.1 trillion US dollars, whereas the economic influence rating of the world being 97.8. So folks, these were the countries according to us that we rated. Let us know if you agree with this or disagree, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a good day. I'll see you in another video.